If you can open this safe, I'll marry you. Smirked the CEO. What he found inside left her in tears. Samantha Cole, one of the most powerful CEOs in New York, had everything: money, respect, and an empire built on steel and sweat. Yet, the tabloids called her the Ice Queen because she never smiled, never dated, and trusted no one. That changed the night she met Daniel Hayes. Daniel wasn't a businessman. He was a single dad, a humble locksmith with a small repair shop that kept him barely afloat. He came to her penthouse one evening after her private safe jammed shut. The black steel vault sat in the corner of her study like a beast. Her assistants had tried everything, but the mechanism refused to budge. Samantha folded her arms, her piercing eyes fixed on him. "If you can open this safe," she smirked, half teasing, half challenging, "I'll marry you." Daniel chuckled nervously, thinking she was joking, but her gaze didn't waver. He got to work, his hands steady as he listened to the faint clicks of tumblers hidden deep inside the safe's heart. It took him hours, the silence broken only by the sound of his tools. Samantha watched, her sharp facade softening as she saw his patience, his focus, his refusal to quit. Finally, click. The heavy door creaked open. Inside wasn't gold, jewels, or business contracts. Instead, there was a small velvet box, a faded photograph, and a stack of letters tied with a ribbon. Daniel handed them to her gently. When Samantha opened the photo, her breath caught. It was of her parents, smiling young, holding a baby. The letters were from her late mother, written before her passing. Words Samantha had locked away years ago because they hurt too much to read. Her hand trembled as she opened the first letter. Tears welled in her eyes. For the first time in years, the Ice Queen broke. She wasn't a CEO in that moment. She was a daughter, aching for love, she thought. She'd lost forever. Daniel didn't say a word. He just placed a steady hand on her shoulder. Through her tears, Samantha whispered, "I never thought anyone could unlock this part of me again. And yet, you did." The smirk she had worn earlier was gone. In its place was something raw, real, and vulnerable. The safe had been opened, but more importantly, so had her heart. Samantha Cole was a name whispered in boardrooms and splashed across every business magazine. She was the youngest female CEO in New York, ruthless in negotiations and cold in her decisions. People called her the Ice Queen not because she was cruel, but because she never let anyone close enough to touch her heart. Behind the designer suits and the sharp smirk was a woman who had built walls higher than any skyscraper she owned. One Friday evening, her personal safe, a massive, old-world vault, inherited from her father, jammed shut. Inside were items she hadn't dared touch for years. Her staff panicked. No one could fix it. "Get me the best locksmith in the city," she ordered. That's how Daniel Hayes walked into her penthouse. Daniel wasn't what she expected. She thought the best locksmith would be a slick technician with a polished toolkit. Instead, he was a rugged single dad in a worn jacket, his hands rough from years of honest work. He carried not arrogance, but quiet confidence. "Ma'am?" He nodded politely. "I hear you've got a stubborn safe." Samantha's lips curved into a smirk. "It's more than stubborn. No one's been able to open it. If you can, well, maybe I'll even marry you." She said it as a joke, testing him. She was used to men fumbling in her presence, desperate to impress her. But Daniel didn't laugh nervously. He just met her eyes calmly and replied, "Then I guess I'd better not fail." For hours, Daniel worked in silence, his ear pressed to the cold steel, his fingers adjusting tiny tools with patience and precision. Samantha poured herself wine, amused at first, but as the night stretched on, she found herself studying him, unlike the men in her world. Daniel wasn't trying to charm her, wasn't dazzled by her wealth. He was steady, focused, treating the safe like it was alive. like it had a secret it didn't want to share. Finally, at midnight click, the heavy door groaned open. Samantha leaned forward. Inside the vault wasn't gold or stocks. Instead, there was a faded photograph, a velvet box, and a bundle of letters tied with ribbon. Her smirk vanished. Her breath caught in her throat. Daniel noticed the change instantly. "Ma'am, should I know?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "Leave it." But her hands moved on their own. She picked up the photo first. It was her parents, young and smiling, holding her as a baby. Her father had died in an accident when she was 12. Her mother followed a few years later, after an illness. The letters, she knew them. They were her mother's last words, written during her final days. Samantha had locked them away, too afraid to read them, too afraid of the pain. Her hand trembled as she untied the ribbon. The first letter began, "My dearest Samantha, if you're reading this, then I am no longer with you. But I need you to know, love is not weakness. Don't shut the world out. Don't shut yourself out." The words, blurred as tears, filled her eyes. She covered her mouth, but the sob broke through anyway. The Ice Queen was gone. In her place was a daughter, broken and aching. Daniel stood quietly. He didn't try to comfort her with words, didn't intrude. Instead, he did something rarer, simply stayed. His steady presence beside her felt stronger than any embrace. When she finally looked up at him, her face wet with tears, she whispered, "I never thought anyone could unlock this part of me again. And yet, you did." Daniel gave a small, kind smile. Sometimes a lock just needs the right touch. From that night, Samantha's life began to shift. She started inviting Daniel over not for his locksmithing, but for his company. His daughter, Lily, brought laughter into her sterile penthouse. Slowly, the walls Samantha had built around her heart began to crumble. One evening, as Daniel prepared dinner in her kitchen, Samantha placed the velvet box from the safe on the table. Inside was her mother's engagement ring. Her voice trembled as she said, "Remember when I said I'd marry you if you opened the safe?" Daniel froze, his eyes flicking to hers. She smiled softly. No smirk this time, only sincerity. "I wasn't joking." And for the first time in years, Samantha, Ice Queen of New York, felt warmth melt through her heart.